Hello everybody, thanks for joining us. I have Abigale over here. She's going to join me today. Isn't she cute? Such a sweet face. Love that hair. What do you think about all these curls? Love them? I do. I love her. So as I told everybody, we have been studying the book of Esther. She has allergies, so she'll probably be coughing. And you can go get a cough drop. And we've been studying the book of Esther. For this summer, we started, and I told you we started on the movie One Night with the King, and we did that last week, I believe, or the week before. Last week we were kind of busy, and this week we finished up One Night with the King this morning. It was a great movie, and it really shared the story of Esther. Not everything was biblical, but overall it was good, but we really enjoyed it. I did. Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah? What'd you think about Esther?
She was pretty.
She was very pretty. And so what did you think about the whole movie? Was it exciting? Was it kind of boring? Did you?
It was good. I just didn't like that mean guy.
Haman?
Yeah.
And who was Haman? Do you remember? Can you describe who he was?
That Abigale, he was an ancestor of them and wanted to kill all the Jews, like Hitler.
Yeah. So in the story of Esther, Haman was a descendant of the who?
Abigale.
And so hatred was passed down from generations, and he wanted to kill the Jews. So there was a lot of manipulation, and there was a lot of things going on. People were trying to kill the king. Mordecai, Esther's uncle, saved the king, and he was rewarded in public, and God totally flipped that whole thing around. And anyway, it's a great story, so read it. But a couple of things that we learned in the movie is God has a special plan for your life. How do you think God's plan for Esther, how did that take place? What happened?
She was an orphan, and then she grew up, and they took her. The Agonites took her away from her family.
No, the king, Assyrius, went to Susa.
Oh, yeah. The king had his people take her, and they put all the girls in this palace, and the king had to choose a queen, and she told a random story about Jacob, and then he was interested and fell in love with her, and then he was gonna leave to go out of town, and Haman, he was gonna be in charge. So Esther went in front of the king, and then she saved all the Jews.
So even though Esther was a little orphan girl and her parents were killed, and her uncle Mordecai raised her, and she totally submitted to him, and he guided her as her parent. And so when the king needed a wife, they gathered up all the girls in Susa, and the king fell in love with Esther. Actually, her name was what?
Hadassah.
Huh? Hadassah.
Hadassah.
Hadassah. She was a Jewish woman. But when she was captured, Mordecai told him, don't tell them that you're Jewish. You're going to be Esther, but your real name is Hadassah. Hadassah is a Jewish name. So when she went to the palace, she became Esther, and she went before the king the one night, and she read the story of Jacob and Rebekah, and he fell in love with her and her stories. So there was something different about her. She was totally set apart from the rest of the girls.
Oh. And she didn't pick all the shiny jewelry. She picked her jewelry. That was just a necklace that her parents gave her, and it
had the Star of David in it.
Yeah.
When it was held up to the light, it would reflect the Star of David. So remember, God has a special plan for you. Doesn't matter where you are, who you are, where you come from. It doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish. God has a plan for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a plan for me, you, and everybody, and I'm excited to see. God's already blessed our lives so much. I can't wait to see what God's going to do with Abigale. But Esther was placed in a royal position, and it wasn't by chance. It was a purpose that she was placed in that position. And sometimes you will have to go against common sense, against what others advise, even against what you want to do in order to follow God's plan. So here she was. She's the queen. And in those times, there was protocol that you had to follow. There was step by step by step. In order to go before the king, you had to be summoned. You couldn't just walk in. You couldn't just show up.
Or you could get killed.
You could get killed. They would chop your head off. So she had to make a decision to surrender to Christ and just believe this is what God had in store for her. Well, actually, not surrender to Christ because he wasn't here yet, but surrender to the Father and know that she knew that this was the will the Father had before her, and she had to go before the king before he left for war, because when he leaves for war, he was going to put Haman in charge, and Haman was going to kill all the Jews. So she had to go and she had to intervene quickly.
But they put Mordecai, they put him, like Haman had to obey him and not worship. What's that word?
When he's carrying him through the city?
Yeah.
Well, God makes all bad things work for the good. So at one point in the story, Mordecai had helped to save the king's life. And so there's a time of honor when that happens. Well, God set it up where Haman had to actually honor Mordecai, the Jew that he hated. He had to honor him in front of the whole city, which, God is so cool. He has so got your back. But here she was. She's getting ready to go into the king's presence to say, hey, and try to intervene on the Jews' behalf. And her guy that took care of her was warning her, hey, don't do this. I'm not going to let you have, you're going to get killed. But she was ready. She was ready to end her life, even against all the warnings she had been given by other people who really didn't understand the call that she had on her life. But she knew what she had to do. So she runs in, and she runs into where the king was, and they were going to chop off her head. It seemed in the movie they were going to chop off her head, but they were going to kill her because
she passed out.
But she was totally out of protocol. She totally out of order. And when the king stopped the sword from hitting her, she totally passed out. And she requested later that evening that he would visit her and have dinner with her. And Haman was there, and she wanted to reveal the truth to him that she was Jewish and that Haman had planned on killing all the Jews in the city. So she went against what some people had told her not to do, but in her heart of hearts, she knew that God had called her, right, to do this. So the time to follow God's plan is now. And it says, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. So listen, people, we were born for such a time as this. We live in the greatest time in history. We live and we get to see so many wonderful things. Yes, if you watch the news, you're going to hear horrible things all the time. There's more good happening in the world than there is bad. Turn on Christian channels, Christian news channels online. You're going to hear some really wonderful things. I have friends who are missionaries all over the world, who go into jungles, who goes into areas where people have a white person's never been seen. We have wonderful things happening in the world, and you just don't get to hear about them. If you're close-minded and you don't listen outside of what the news says, you're missing it. God is everywhere, and His glory is falling on this earth, left and right, and all kinds of amazing things are happening. Open yourselves up to experience what He's doing, because we were born for such a time as this, and this is a dark world that we live in, and we need to be out being light. Do I pray for people all the time?
Yes.
Strangers?
Yes.
Listen, when I'm out in public and the Lord tells me to pray, I'm going to pray. I don't care who they are, because I may be the only chance that they get to meet Jesus that day. I don't know what the next minute's going to hold. I don't know what God's plan is. I don't know that using me as a vessel to go send a message to somebody, hopefully it's going to change their lives. And just like God used Esther, listen, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to perish and you're going to go be with Jesus. Don't be afraid, because eternity is where we're going to be forever. Jesus is the only way. Surrender your life to Christ. He's so awesome. And I know that everybody doesn't agree with some of the things that I believe, and that's okay. If you don't believe the things that I say, go get the Bible, search them for yourself. Don't ever rely on man to teach you everything. God gave you an instruction book. You know, I talked last time about living with people and what I thought about that and today's society. Listen, if you don't take my word for it, go look it up for yourself. I'm not telling you to always believe what I say. I'm telling you to go look it up for yourself and see what the word says. Okay, so trusting in God completely brings great rewards. Esther 8:17. In every province and every city, wherever the edict of the king went, there was joy and gladness among the Jews, with feasting and celebrating, and many people of other nationalities became Jews because fear of the Jews had seized them. It said Esther saved a nation. Her obedience saved God's people from destruction. The reward for obedience was even better than expected. Esther went before the king, prepared for the worst case scenario. She got the very, very best. Many people became followers of God. The people were inspired by the faith of the one woman, the one man, that everything changed in the nation. You see, even though it was written in law, the way things were at that time, the king gave the Jews time literally to kill people who were there to harm them and to redeem themselves. And they did that. But that was because Esther, she trusted the Lord. She trusted what God had told her. She stepped out and she did what she was supposed to do. And God totally blessed her, and he blessed the people. He blessed the Jews. It is always prove profitable in the long run to obey God. When others see us living in radical obedience that makes no sense, they'll want some of what we have. The world around you is looking for answers, trying to figure out how to make life work. We may not have all the answers, but we know about God and who does. So the cool thing is, listen, when you get saved, you just want to be obedient. You don't want to be disobedient. You just want to do what's right, because in the presence of God is the most awesome place to be, right? Yeah? You like being in the presence of God?
Yeah.
Abigale is not as outspoken as I am, but that's okay. She loves the Lord, and her heart is so kind and precious and sweet, right?
I think so.
She is. So anyway, we love sharing these stories with you. So this was the book of Esther. I hope that you would take time to at least watch the movie and kind of get an idea of what was going on at that time. Esther was a really cool story. Did you think it was a cool story?
Yeah.
And how she was a young woman. She wasn't old. She was young, and surrendered her life to God and went out on a limb, saved the people, and God totally blessed her. And just like he does with us today, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Remember that. He loves you so much. He wants the best for you. He wants you to have a good life. But in order to do that, there is obedience. And you have to be obedient to what God has called you. The world may tell you one thing, but go look in the Bible and see what God is really saying. And I promise you, if you're obedient to the Word of God, your life is so much better. There's peace, there's love, there's joy, there's kindness, and then you get to give all of that out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because this one over here, she wants to give all the time, and she couldn't do that unless it was Christ that lives in her. So we're so grateful that you took a moment to watch our video. We love you guys. We hope that you stick with us, and we will do another one here next week, because we're going to start on another book and see what journey the Lord takes us on. Bless you. Have a great week. We love you guys. Bye.